Hayden Finch's The Psychology of Procrastination begins by dismantling a common myth: procrastination is not laziness. Too often, people equate putting things off with a lack of willpower or moral failing. Finch shows instead that procrastination is a deeply human, often protective behavior. It is the brain's attempt to shield us from discomfort, uncertainty, or fear. This reframing is essential, because when we label ourselves as lazy, we add shame on top of avoidance, which only makes it harder to change. At its core, procrastination is a coping strategy. Finch explains that when faced with a task, the brain evaluates the immediate discomfort it may bring, effort, boredom, risk of failure, against the distant reward of completion. Because our wiring favors short-term relief over long-term gain, avoidance feels good in the moment. Checking social media or doing a small, unrelated chore gives us instant gratification. The cost, of course, is future stress, guilt, and pressure. Understanding this mechanism allows us to approach procrastination with compassion rather than self-criticism. Finch highlights the role of emotions in driving procrastination. People often delay because they want to escape negative feelings, anxiety about failing, frustration with difficulty, or even dread of judgment. This emotional avoidance is subtle. We think we are waiting for a better time, when really, we are protecting ourselves from feeling uncomfortable now. Recognizing procrastination as emotion-driven rather than effort-driven helps us target the root cause, not the task itself, but our emotional relationship with it. Another key theme in Finch's work is perfectionism. Many procrastinators are not careless but overly careful, afraid of producing anything less than flawless. They delay starting because the imagined standard is impossibly high. Others fear success, worrying that finishing a task will raise expectations they can't sustain. By unpacking these hidden fears, Finch shows how procrastination is less about laziness than about vulnerability. Finch also explores the biology behind procrastination. Our brains are wired with a reward system that privileges immediate payoff. This is why scrolling through social media or watching TV feels irresistible compared to writing a paper or preparing a presentation. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for long-term planning and impulse control, is easily overpowered by the limbic system, which craves instant gratification. Knowing this allows us to design strategies that play to our brain's strengths rather than fight against them. To move forward, Finch emphasizes the importance of self-awareness. She encourages readers to track their procrastination habits, what tasks they delay, when it happens, and what emotions surface. This detective work transforms procrastination from a vague problem into a specific pattern. Maybe you procrastinate most when tasks feel ambiguous, or when you're afraid of judgment, or late in the day when energy dips. Once identified, these triggers can be addressed directly. One of the most actionable insights in the book is the idea of breaking tasks into smaller, concrete steps. Finch explains that procrastination thrives on overwhelm. When a task feels huge, the brain defaults to avoidance. But if we reduce a project into bite-sized pieces, opening a document, writing one sentence, making one phone call, we shrink the psychological barrier. Small wins generate momentum and trick the brain into associating the task with progress rather than dread. Finch also underscores the role of environment. Distractions are not just temptations, they are invitations for procrastination. By intentionally shaping our environment, turning off notifications, organizing workspaces, setting visual reminders, we reduce the friction between intention and action. Environment design makes discipline less about sheer willpower and more about aligning surroundings with goals. Self-compassion plays a central role in Finch's philosophy. Many procrastinators beat themselves up, calling themselves lazy or unmotivated, which deepens shame and fuels more avoidance. Instead, Finch encourages approaching procrastination with curiosity rather than judgment. Asking, "What emotion am I avoiding?" or "What barrier is here?" shifts the focus from self-blame to problem-solving. This gentle approach creates the psychological safety needed to try again, rather than spiral into self-criticism. Accountability is another tool Finch highlights. Sharing goals with others, setting deadlines, or working alongside someone creates external structure that counters the brain's tendency to drift. Procrastination thrives in isolation. When others are involved, stakes rise, and commitment strengthens. This doesn't mean outsourcing responsibility but using community as scaffolding for self-discipline. Finch acknowledges that chronic procrastination can sometimes signal deeper mental health struggles like anxiety, depression, or ADHD. For some, avoidance is not simply a bad habit but a symptom of larger challenges. Recognizing this prevents oversimplification. In such cases, professional support, therapy, or medication may be part of the solution. Procrastination is not always conquered by willpower alone, sometimes it requires addressing the underlying condition. Motivation, Finch argues, is not a prerequisite for action but often the result of it. Many people wait to feel ready, but readiness rarely comes first. By starting small, we create momentum that generates motivation. This flips the common belief on its head: action leads to motivation, not the other way around. Even the tiniest first step can set this positive feedback loop in motion. Throughout the book, Finch blends research with practicality. She explains complex psychological mechanisms in accessible language and follows them with exercises to apply immediately. Journaling about procrastination triggers, reframing perfectionist thoughts, and scheduling time blocks are all tools she suggests for building new habits. The balance of science and actionable advice keeps the book grounded and usable. Ultimately, the psychology of procrastination reframes avoidance from a moral flaw into a solvable puzzle. By understanding the emotional, biological, and psychological drivers behind procrastination, we stop fighting ourselves blindly and start working with our brains more intelligently. We learn that progress does not come from erasing fear or waiting for the perfect mood but from building systems, breaking tasks down, and treating ourselves with compassion. In the end, Finch delivers a liberating message: procrastination is not who you are, but a habit shaped by fear, wiring, and context. Habits can be unlearned, reshaped, and replaced. Change begins not with shame but with understanding, not with grand resolutions but with small, consistent steps. By embracing both self-awareness and strategy, anyone can move from avoidance to accomplishment, reclaiming not only lost time but also a sense of agency and self-trust.